Hello, we're back from football hiatus, Super Bowl. I was wrong in my prognostication. I finished 7-6. He he didn't pick. Over the
No one cares,
No one
dude.
cares.
Yeah,
Sure, they care.
they want to talk about wrestling.
Okay, well, wrestling. A lot of football players, used to be who got it used to get into wrestling. That's just how we used to get them. It used to be a pipeline.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
our uncle Guy died. That's my dad's last surviving sibling.
Mm-hmm.
And
87 and a fine scratch golfer.
yeah, so like 5 years ago, before around the time I got married, he sent us a picture. I don't know if we can zoom in on this of dad with comment in the comment section if you know who this guy is with dad. I mean, we're gonna tell you,
Yeah, we're gonna tell you.
but
And
that's
we're thinking as to
yeah.
what it might be. Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. It's
Yeah.
dad with Angelo Poffo,
Yeah.
his son, one of the biggest names in the history of wrestling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Macho Man's dad.
Yeah, because I remember years ago, somebody asked me. They said they only knew Dad as a manager. I said my father was in the wrestling business so long, he was actually tag team partners with Randy Savage's dad. And I just said that sounded so cool to be able to say that.
Yeah, so I thought dad. I thought he managed him, or not. I don't.
Manage slash tag team partner.
And I know
Both.
Angelo Poffo didn't need a manager, but
No.
at that time that was maybe dad just went to the ring with him. Or
Great
something
break
like
for Dad because he was his manager and tag team partner. And Uncle Guy, who sent us that photograph about 5 years ago. The last time he liked going to the matches, mainly watched wrestling from the Chase. Our dad's now one shot with the WWF on the now infamous Piper's Pit that he did that we still have never seen. I know there's tape of it somewhere. Dad went to the matches at the Keel in St. Louis in like July of '84, and my uncle drove him to the matches.
yeah, okay.
And right before, and this shows you like how you can read me and I can read you. Uh, Uncle Guy that afternoon, as Dad was, wrestlers what they normally do before they go to the town. They go, they shave, they shower, they put on the aftershave, they look at themselves, they're overthinking everything in their mind, as to what's going on, is who's out to get them and who's not. Like Shawn Michaels say, just because you think someone's out to get you doesn't mean that they're not. So your paranoia is sometimes justified. And Dad's pacing back and forth. He's changed shirts a few times. And Uncle Guy said, no, I don't think, and he didn't go to the matches that much with Dad because Dad really didn't work Illinois that much. But my uncle was like, I don't think Buddy wants to go out there tonight. I think even Uncle Guy could pick up that Dad did not want to be part of.
Buddy was dad.
Yeah, that's what he called him. The WWF at that time, and this is before a long car trip and a fall down a flight of stairs and a abbreviated conversation with Vince McMahon later.
When was that? Was summer '84?
Summer '84.
So I had a question. You might not know the answer off the top of your head, so feel free to think about it. I thought we were already en route to come back here for Dad to be with Chris Adams. So what was? So I had to think about that.
There were a lot of things that were going on at the time. Dad, as the original plan, was to go to New York, which I don't know why, but he thought that was a good idea. I remember when we were leaving Charlotte, Carolinas at that time, we were packing up our bags to leave, and Gene Anderson asked Dad, "Hey, I heard you gave your notice. Where are you going?" And Dad went, "New York." And then Gene just looked at Dad and went, "New York? You?" Realizing, Vince had already stolen everyone out of the Carolinas anyway by this point in time. So Dad was going there because Jim Barnett had set up a meeting with Dad and Vince was supposed to take place at the Keel in St. Louis. Vince originally wanted to give Dad Kabuki, and Dad goes, "No, that ain't going to happen." And then he had brought this guy named Cujo. I didn't really think much of the guy by looking at him. And then when Dad did see him in the dressing room a couple nights later, I think it was in Landover, when Jay Strongbow and the rest of those cats did what politicians do, and they played ribs on him. Howard Finkel was supposed to pick him up at arena at the airport to take him to Landover. No disrespect to Howard, he probably didn't know who Dad was, and Jay Strongbow. Nothing against these guys, but the WWF was known for shenanigans and games. And Dad made it to the locker room and had a spat with a few people, and then I went and told Greg Valentine and Bob Orton and Roddy Piper, because he was supposed to ride up to, because they used to always do their TV in Poughkeepsie back then. They were going to ride up from Landover to Poughkeepsie, and Dad went and found Roddy, Bob, and Greg and said, "We'll be riding with you guys tomorrow. I'm out of here." And then flies back to St. Louis and comes to my Uncle Guy's house. And Dad calls Vince, and I think George still answered the phone. And then Dad said,
So George still was at Vince's house.
"Well, it
No,
was
I'm just kidding. Like
Vince always did a lot of business at his
like
home."
you call it, yeah.
And Dad said, "You know, I'm not really, too cool on what happened." And then Vince said to Dad, he goes, "You caused me a lot of problems in my dressing room." And Dad said, does Jay Strongbow have anything to say about what goes on in your company?" Because Jay Strongbow is a trusted advisor of mine. And Dad went, "Well, if Jay Strongbow has anything to say about the company that you work for or that you own, I don't really want a part of it." And then Vince goes, "Well, you caused me a lot of problems in my locker room. I flew you out to Landover." And Dad goes, "Well, tell me how much I owe you and I'll write you a check." And Vince goes, "That won't be necessary." Puts Dad back on the phone with George, and Dad goes, "Tell Vince thanks, but no thanks." And I think that's when Fritz got word, "Hey, I can get him." But I think that was going to go bad regardless of if Dad would have done 1 or 2 or 10 shows with them. Fritz wanted him to come back, and he was going to take Texas every time. Because the WWF, no disrespect to anyone there, but it just was, I say again, I know it pains some people, they can't wrap their head around it. But my father was not WWF material.
All right, here we go. Got a question here. Frank Bonini. He says, "I know it. I know that it wasn't really brought up in this video, but I think the biggest problem with the whole Lance Von Erich, and that quotation marks. I think the whole problem with the Lance Von Erich experience was they hired a guy that people already knew in the DFW Metroplex area as a high school sports star in young Mr. Vaughn. So Mr. Vaughn being Kevin Vaughn, right, which was Lance Von Erich's real name.
Yeah,
was Kevin
and
Vaughn.
they used the name Ricky Vaughn in Portland.
Yeah, so I agree with him. Good point. That
Yeah.
how would you back in that? It was territorial back then.
Mm-hmm.
And then how would you take? And I think Dad mentioned this on some shoot interview. Why would you take a local guy that's known?
I wouldn't have done it anyway because that had disaster written all over it.
Yeah, but what do you make of his question?
I think what about picking a guy from here?
Yeah, so it's
and
like
telling everyone that he was an authentic Von Erich and he wasn't. That was June from Jump Street.
No, I know, but the fact that he's saying, you take a guy that's a popular high school athlete,
Yeah, and everyone already knew him. And then they sent him to Portland and used the name Ricky Vaughn, and then he was so unseasoned and green that Kevin during his interviews was like, "We're trying to adjust him from the European style to the American style." And when you also, in the defense of Lance Von Erich, and I know I don't agree with what he did in Japan when he took off and left because that cost the office a lot of money. And I don't agree with a lot of the things that he said with Kevin. Kevin has tried to forgive the guy, and the guy has repeatedly doesn't want to talk to Kevin about it at all. I did read the book, and the guy's name was Vincent Barry, who wrote the book. It was a very, very good book. I even reached out to the guy and told him that I enjoyed the book. And
I reached out to him too. I tried to get the copy for free.
Okay, well,
I never sent it to me.
It's a typical kid from the wrestling business. He doesn't want to pay for anything. Neither do I. So if you got anything for free, you'd like to send me. Anyway, I never realized his side of it, and it was very well presented how Lance or Ricky Vaughn or whatever his Kevin Vaughn, what his real perspective of it was. But then again, you're taking a guy, you're putting him in an impossible position. The guy didn't know anything about wrestling to begin with.
Right.
He was from here, and then you try to present him as an authentic Von Erich, and he wasn't seasoned. And then when you consider also the fact that I think with the exception of Kerry, none of the rest of the guys wanted to talk to him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not, this had bad written all over it. And I really think that probably in a lot of ways that at that point in time, after everything that had already happened with the family up until that point, I think Fritz was probably a little checked out when he okayed that.
Yeah, but I mean, I was saying, so you put him, have him start at the Sportatorium, Friday night, and let's just say the high school that he went to was 30 miles away, which isn't a far fetch.
Everybody would know that it was a Fritz.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, like, if just one person, back then the way kayfabe was, if just one person knew who he was, it was just like what, like it just, yeah, it was just,
it just was not going to work regardless of what. And nothing against Kevin Vaughn, but
yeah,
I met him. I have memories of him when I was around him as a kid. nice enough guy,
I think
good-looking guy, but it was just you should have called him anything but that.
Yeah, if he would have learned how to work, he would have probably fit right in.
Good-looking guy, good athlete, but he just didn't have I don't think he'd even seen wrestling on TV.
Right. But like I'm saying, if he would have learned how to work, he would have fit in with that crew that came in, like that were on a national level, like 3 years later, like Flying Brian.
It's like Christian Okoye in the NFL. He was a guy from Nigeria who had never played football before.
Lance Von Erich was from Nigeria.
He has gyms in South Africa.
Oh,
And then he came to Azusa Pacific, and they saw he was a track star, and they tried to make him a football player, and they would go to and he became a really good running back, but they would say something to him in the huddle, "Hey, Christian, we're going to hit you in the flat," and he would look at me and go, "The flat? What is the flat?" He didn't know football terms, just like Lance Von Erich didn't understand wrestling.
I was saying but Lance would probably have been in the same mindset, and
Of the
modern day guy that was coming through, the bodybuilder, Flying Brian, Sting, the Ultimate Warrior, and he was friends with the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah,
him and Dingo Warrior were buddies.
Yeah,
if he would have learned how to work.
Yeah, and Kerry liked everybody. Kerry was nice to everyone.
Yeah, so
had more talent in his little finger than most guys.
Yeah, I would say nothing. Nothing against
Lance. It's just a bad situation, guys. That would be like putting me behind the controls of an airliner.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Daniel Moore, or Buddy Daniel Moore. I recognize that name. You recognize that name?
Absolutely.
Love to hear some stories on Bruiser Brody and Skandor. So Scandor Akbar.
One of the nicest guys that you will ever meet in the business and outside of the business was one of the guys who was absolutely nothing like what you thought he was. Like guys like my father.
You're talking about Scandor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Dad wasn't too far removed from what you actually saw.
Yeah.
Uncle Mark Lewin was not too far removed from what you saw. Ric Flair, not at all far removed from what you see. Scandar Akbar, completely removed from what you saw. And whenever I think of Scan, I think of two things. Whenever I smell a cigar, I think of either Scan or I think of Bronco. One of the two. Just a nice guy. Was actually a Methodist. I think he was raised Catholic because he was Lebanese, and he spent most of his time in Odessa, Texas, and was a fanatic about football. Not so much the NFL, but he was really paid attention to high school and college ball, and just a journeyman wrestler, much like Dad, who realized that his skill set was going to be better off for managing. And I just remember him and Dad worked really, really, really well together. I mean, I'll say this about him: he was the only guy that could come in and make Dad a babyface.
Yeah.
No matter how long Dad had been in the territory or when he came back, I mean, they would do this thing because they're both heels, so heels are a little bit more giving. Dad would start to circle the ring to try to chase him around the ring, and Scan would go slowly, and then they would just turn around, and he would start moving this way, and Dad would start moving that way. Dad would pick up a chair, and then Scan would pick up the bell ringer, and then it was and they didn't mind selling for each other.
Right.
They're like, okay, both of you going to take a bump on a punch? What is this?
Yeah.
But I just always remember it being exciting when Dad would be out there with him.
Yeah,
Dad liked working with those guys.
Yeah, I was my first memories of Scandor, 4 or 5 years old or whatever, scared to death of him.
Yeah, because he came off as a real mean heel.
Yeah, and just seeing him on TV, and I guess I never met him. 4 or 5 years old, just seeing him in the dressing room, or man, I was scared of him. And then when I got older. I was 20-something. I was still scared of him. No, but then I don't ever actually remember meeting Scan until I was a teenager.
You met him way before that, though.
Yeah.
When you were little, you would have been 3 or 4 when you first met him.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying I don't remember meeting him until I think I was 17 or 18, and I was still scared of him. And then, then I met him. I was like, wow, he's so nice. He's not what he comes off like.
And I remember the
last. I still wasn't totally smart enough. I guess still not. I'm still.
The last time I saw him would have been about a year before he passed away. He had sort of declined a little bit. His mind was a little addled because I saw him at a restaurant that we were doing some type of convention. I went out there, and he recognized me and he knew who I was. But each time he saw me that day, he said, "Hey, babe, how you doing? Hey, Jay." I was like, "Okay, how you doing?"
Yeah.
He kept thinking, and then the last time I saw him, I left. I said, "I got to take off. I got to leave." He goes, "Well, good to see you, baby. Love you too, kid."
Yeah.
So he was a good man.
And
worked really well with Dad.
Yeah.
Because he didn't mind selling.
Yeah.
And Dad's, and sometimes when you would watch Dad's matches against him and Dewey and Scott or Bill, I mean with Kevin and Chris against him, I would look at Dad like, "Are you guys going to give them anything? Do you think they're just there to kick you over?" Be like, they were not. No, we're not going to try to fight them back, because sometimes that's a little like, come on, what are we here just to fall down for you? And please,
stories on Bruiser Brody.
a lot. I mean, how many times would we go downstairs wherever we were living, whether we were living in over here, over there, or anywhere, where you go downstairs the next morning and there'd be a Bruise on the couch, in a blanket, and then occasionally, because Bruise was there was a kayfabe was like the law, and Bruise would be very, very sheepish whenever he would try to come over and see Dad. So sometimes he would like run up to the door real fast and knock on it, or other times if Dad didn't answer the door, he would go around back, and try to jump the fence. And he goes, "You don't think anybody saw me try to come in here, do you?" I said, "Yeah, they saw Bruiser Brody walking around the backyard, jumping over a fence. I'm sure no one thought that looked suspicious at all."
Yeah.
And a lot of, I mean, it's hard to come up with just one or two things.
I remember, like, Mom always said wrestlers used to like to talk on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
I remember him and Dad would be talking on the phone a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I remember just one in particular. We had, like, it was rare that Dad was at home.
Mm-hmm.
The day off or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was like 86, 80.
I think it was during his booking tenures when this would have been.
And we just, like, which was rare. Everybody's home, and I guess Mom organized, like, for me, you, Mom, and Dad to sit down and play a board game.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, we just sit down and get to
Mm-hmm.
start playing the game, and phone starts ringing, and then Dad's talking to Bruce. No game of Monopoly that night.
Yeah, because I remember during that time period, I'd pick up the phone and say, "Hello, hey Jace, is your dad around?" And say, "Yeah, hold on, Bruce. Hey, Dad, it's Bruce." And then a booking meeting would ensue, and then sometimes he'd be tied up for a while, and sometimes he'd be gone all day. I do remember one time they were going to fly out to. I'm not going to say where they were going to fly out to because it'll give it away, and that may get us heat later. But they went to get on a plane to go somewhere. It was I'm not going to say when it was. They went to get on a plane to go to DFW airport.
Mm-hmm.
They said, "Okay, we'll see you guys in a couple of days," because they were going someplace far away.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 30 minutes later, they pull up, and Dad walks in. Bruce drives off. I said, "I thought you guys were going to." Dad goes, "No, they don't want to pay." So that was the end of that. And then there was the one time in the Corpus Christi at the Bayfront. We had just come out of the water, and this was in January, and I'm standing there in the stage in my underwear. And he comes out,
yeah,
funny, berating me.
I think I've told this story before, but yeah, I was so little, but I do remember.
I got another story I can tell too.
Yeah, go ahead.
1986, 87. The WWF rings that had come out. It was because Vern Gagne was making the action figures, because I know how he hated being modern, but he was modern in that respect. They were more like the He-Man figures, but Vince was selling like the flexible, posable, the smaller ones, not the original ones from '85. These are the smaller ones in the ring. It was the ring play set with the cage, and then you would take like this like hammer type thing to make it, not to be confused with Greg the Hammer Valentine. Happy Valentine's Day, love you, and be like this, and the wrestlers would jump. It was Brutus Beefcake, and I can't remember who the other action figure was. But anyway, Bruce comes over. We got that for Christmas, and Bruce comes in. He's picking up Dad to go to the airport. He goes, "So what'd you get for Christmas?" I said, "Right here. It's the WWF ring cage." I said, "See this WWF action cage set?" And Bruce looks at me. He goes, "WWF? I'd never work for those people." That was him telling young Jason, "You are not to, nor should you." And as of yet, I have not worked for the WWF. Though I have suspicion he was working some kind of a deal in '88.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I just remember that, like, we've told the story before. Like, he lived somewhere out in the middle
of Texas.
Middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember driving a long drive out of San Antonio.
Yes.
So we were staying in San Antonio or something. I just remember it took a long time to get to his house, and we just like driving through woods and dirt roads to get to his house. And then we got to his house.
So we made that video for when he was when Red River Jack decided to show up.
Yeah, and I don't really remember a whole lot about that. I remember he had a sunken living room, I think.
Yeah.
I remember red carpet.
Yeah, this house was way out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, red carpet. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
Sunken living room.
Yeah.
Just hanging out with his son Jeffrey.
Mm-hmm. A lot about him. It just goes back from the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Or my time on this planet anyway.
All right. Lazman.
All
Recognize
right.
that name. Says another great chat, guys. Mark Lewin and Peter Maeva were big stars here in New Zealand wrestling. Oh, so he's in New Zealand, obviously. Do you have some good stories about them and your dad? Peter Maivia, I never met him.
Never met him.
Mark Lewin,
Oh yeah.
Yes. So
he's reveling in the Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl victory at this very moment.
Oh, that's right.
That's
yeah.
a big thing for him right now.
So Mark Lewin.
Oh, from one of the first people.
Well, how's he doing? You talked to him a little bit on the phone.
He's doing great. He's doing great. He still sounds the same. He's still working out. He's still Uncle Mark. He doesn't really change. His recollection is right there. He's still quick witted. He's still he hasn't changed. He's like almost perpetual.
Yeah, I just
heard from him yesterday. I'm probably going to talk to him sometime next week.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What, did he text you?
Mm-hmm. Linda does that.
Oh, yeah.
Because he says if I try to send somebody a message, I push a button, I could call somebody. I'm not sure who I'm talking to.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
The one thing with him that this is. I mean, I was smart, but I wasn't completely.
How old were you?
I was 7 or so, but I didn't trust. I knew everything was okay with the wrestlers. I just didn't trust the referees.
Right.
So they did something, and the Dad and Uncle Mark would always do this, where they'd say, because he had a hold, the sleeper, which was over, it wasn't used as a high spot. It was used as more like a threat, So he would do this thing where he would put him out, and then Dad would, do the whole thing. No, go in the corner, do this, and then slap you on the back and wake him up. They did this thing where to get some heat, they put, I think it was Iceman that they put out with the sleeper hold, and they refused to wake him up. And then Moon came down as Unk's got ice like this in the sleeper, and then Moon splashes ice. And that would be hard to take. You have a sleeper and you get splashed.
Yeah.
So Dad's thing was, I will not, because it was something about double standards, some with Bruiser Brody and the Von Erichs. It says, next time he does this, I will not wake him up. So one night on Fort Worth TV, which aired Saturday night, Unk slaps the
Unk is Mark Lewin, right?
Slaps the sleeper on somebody. I don't remember who it was. And Dad's like, no, I cannot. And David Manning comes out. He goes, you don't wake him up, you're going to be under fine and suspended by the NWA. And then Dad's, and then Dad goes to try to wake the guy up, and Unk stands in front of him like this. No, you're not going. Now, in my mind, I know everything's cool with everybody in the ring, right? But I'm paranoid of David Manning. So I'm looking out the window because I'm thinking the cops are coming.
Wow.
And I was like, that means, so that, I knew everything was okay with them.
Yeah.
But it was just okay. And I just thought the referees were,
Yeah, I just remember he would, like in 80, like I guess when he was there in World Class in like 85, I always thought it was interesting, like Chris Adams, for example. Chris would, be wearing a brand new polo, slacks, dress shoes to go, sunglasses.
Of course, I'm proper English.
I'm
a gentleman.
To go,
gotta live the gimmick.
To go to the matches. He would show up at the arena or the building like that. And Ric Flair, he would show up in a 3-piece suit.
Yeah.
He'd leave his hotel room or wherever he was staying. He'd be in a suit.
He'd get the best suite in the hotel. He wouldn't even sleep. He just left his bag there.
And I just remember, I thought it was so odd that, and I guess it was, I guess I had met him, but anyways.
Yeah, you met him.
No, I know. I'm saying though,
79.
This was like my first memory of Mark Lewin. He was living at the same apartments we were living at. And anyways, I guess they were picking Dad up to go to the matches. And I just see, Dad's in a suit, but he always wore a suit. But anyways, talking like Chris Adams dressed up to go to the matches. Yeah, Flair. But I just see Mark Lewin in the passenger seat of a car. They're picking Dad up, I think is what it was, to go to the matches. And Mark Lewin's just no shirt on, in the white pants that he wore to wrestle and the black boots that he wore to wrestle.
And
jacked. And Jack going to the matches.
Yeah.
It was like,
it
looked weird, but I guess it was good because,
him.
People really believe, man, maybe this guy really is
but when
nuts out of a,
But he was known for also dressing up like to the nines, because he told me one time, he goes, You know,
Not that day, he
he
wasn't.
said, sometimes I like to buy expensive shirts. Sometimes I can afford them. Now I can, but sometimes, you can always like to put one on.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all I got. You got anything else?
We'd be here all day.
Yeah. So see how this works. This is my low budget audio. So if you got any questions you want to send us, we will answer them.
Let's give the dates of the towns backwards.
All right.
And tonight.